From zero to hero, from no volume to full volume. Welcome back, everyone, and a huge happy Friday. I am sprinting across the finish line here. Artist Journal, October 11th, 2024. Escape velocity, where you're in the gym, you're exhausted, and then you hit the second wave, the second wind, and you are running like there is no tomorrow. Welcome back, broadcasting from Berlin, Germany. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Improvising, as usual. And here we go. I think it actually should be a shorter show, as I always say here. So again, huge thank you. What a fun week. The Unknown Collector. Really cool space there. Just a fun space. Again, it was kind of everything I was hoping for. State of the arts with Unknown Collector. So that is pinned on the feed if you want to hear if you missed it. So let's begin. We've been looking, you and me, who've been watching the show, we've been looking at Hermeep pixel art. We'll look at the name. You can pronounce it how you see fit, and help me out if you know. We've been looking at this incredibly interesting pixel artist, and let me zoom in a bit here. I believe out of Japan. We're going to put out a new work, and it's all just incredibly interesting. Let me actually get some details, and then we'll kind of dissect the work a bit. And I don't even know, there are many things I don't know about what's going on here. There is a language. It is Japanese, translated from Japanese by Google. Torch. Torch, I drew a picture of an extremely arranged version of the Torch logo. So interesting, and I'm not familiar with Torch, the name brand. It is a migratory bird that carries the heat of culture. Very cool. So, okay, great. Now let's go back to the work. And actually, you know what I'm going to do first? Let's go to the Instagram, because I want to just make sure for those that have been watching that you remember who this is. Remember the person that did what is this, like a woodcut? It is. It looks like a laser engraved woodcut, right? Wet paper sucks the ink better, but it's a pain to manage. So some of you might remember this from maybe when I was in Crete, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you might remember, we're going to look at some of these works. Of course, the hand, these are brilliant. You see how just original they are, right? So just to give you a quick kind of sense of who it is we're talking about, and remember, we've been looking at this for a long time. And so the Rezos. And so here we are again. So let's just kind of look up close and see if we can figure out what's going on here. We have black and white. So probably a tiny file size. Probably the thing that sticks out most to me in this work, I'm not familiar with the Torch logo. I didn't even realize this was fire, so I assume this is fire. But the thing that really stood out most to me is the different size pixels. And this is a really, I would say, kind of weirdly uncommon technique. It's not like it's super uncommon, but what's cool about it, and what I'm talking about specifically is, say, like these big pixels here and the tiny little pixels here, is what happens when you have super big and super small. You have contrast. And oftentimes with pixel art, what you're going to see is, let's say someone does their, 400 by 400 pixel, 380, 256, whatever your number is, 480, let's call it. 480 by 480 canvas. Usually, I would say 90% of the time, generally speaking, it's kind of a one size pixel, a kind of one size fits all pixel, shall we say. And you don't get the sense that there's a big pixel brush and a little pixel brush and everything. Generally speaking, it's like you would see in a video game, right? As if you're trying to do with that early video game resolution, art, that you're kind of trying to recreate the world with a certain resolution. So you're not getting arty about it when you're making a video game. so to speak. You're just trying to put, Mario in his, or what's a better example? I almost want to say something more, what is a more pixel, like, you know what I'm thinking of? Sierra Games and like King's Quest and all those kind of games are kind of, 1980s computer games, late 80s, early 90s. Police Quest, right? Police Academy, Police Quest. Generally speaking, for using that as an example, maybe we'll bring it up actually really quickly. Let's see if I know what I'm talking about here. King's Quest, Sierra. Generally speaking, you see what I'm saying here. And I think it'll stand to reason too. Like, you see, it's not like we have big pixels and small pixels, right? It's basically what you might call a universal pixel size that is basically taking a photo, so to speak, or doing a kind of landscape or a scene, and then kind of doing it within a certain resolution, and by default it becomes pixelated because the screen can only do so much. It's computer graphics. And so you have this result, right? But it's quite interesting then when we go back to here. Like, it's a different scene, so to speak. It's a different situation. We have more contrast, I would argue, here. We have big pixel and small pixel. And we have seen that. We've seen Sabato. I think I've done it. We've seen other people. Like, it's just not that common. It's not like it's never done, but it's not that common, right? But it creates a really cool contrast. And I'd argue it's even exploited here with this very large pixel here. And then here in this scene, you have these very, very small, which makes it look like this is actually, I don't know, 400 pixels here, let's call it, across, maybe less, maybe 100, 200. But then you have these huge ones here, and if you were to count these, this would look like, okay, maybe there's 30, but really, it's every one of these little pixels here. It looks like every one of these big pixels has probably what looks like at least 10, maybe even 12, 14 small pixels in them, right? So I think that's part of what makes this interesting. Of course, there's a lot of other things too, these interesting diagonals. And we have video, actually, of Hermipe, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, doing the art. You see even here, with the bird's leg, you get like the small pixel. Here you get the small pixel again, the smallest pixel, you might say, here in the details of the beak. And even these weird little, I guess that's a flower here and some ground. So different sized pixels and kind of stylized here. And then even interestingly, and I would argue even a little bit mysteriously, these three almost emoji hearts here, pixelated emoji hearts. And this even looks like maybe this is the bird, the noise of the bird, the bird call, so to speak. And even in here, I'd say with a lot of kind of dexterity, this pixelation being done here, that kind of looks easy, but I would argue it's not, and that's why you don't see it very often. And I don't know, but I suspect this is all manually done. So again, you zoom out, and again, I am seeing, it's the contrast, really. And you do have, of course, black and white being a contrast, of course. And this beautiful neck. So full of mystery here. Now, I think I brought up, let me just put this in order here. Let's just look at how this is made. So I'm pretty sure I've seen Hermipe in an Instagram post mention in the past how this is made on a phone. And I was trying actually to figure out the software. I didn't figure it out, but it looks like a very nice, simple software, doesn't it? And let's just see Hermipe at work here, and a very cool video here. So a bit of a work in progress. And I want you to notice another massive thing, which you've probably already noticed. Do you see how it is being composed? It's using a projector. And I'm sure you've probably done this if you have a projector. I've done it a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago in my previous place, where I connected my phone and probably through Wi-Fi or something, or Bluetooth, to my projector, where all of a sudden you could work let's say. I never really did, but I did it just actually to look at works that I'd made on the phone. Let's see what they look like big without having to do some rigmarole just from, where I'm sitting on the couch or wherever, right? So you see here, it does look like there are different sized pixel brushes, different sized pixels here, which again, if you're going to go all out, as Hermipe is as a pixel artist, nice move, so to speak. And look, I mean, this looks all manual, so to speak, right? Like this looks kind of like all drawn out. And then the line tool, there is like some kind of a line tool, which is kind of a classic pixel art tool, maybe like the rectangle, maybe an oval, right? And again, I look at that software and I go, that is some nice software that you could take to the cafe and do some work. There are a few pixel art apps, so you can find something that approximates it if this is something you're interested in. So here is this, and we looked at this, and you see how good it looks too. And let's not forget, Hermipe has been did work for Starbucks. Interestingly, is not on the blockchain, as far as I understand. I think would do fabulously on the blockchain. Some people don't like the blockchain, right? Like for whatever reason that I still don't understand. There are a lot of people that still are, maybe it's the word NFT, which I was discussing with Unknown Collector. I think that word's not being used as much anymore. I don't see it being used as much. I think the marketing people are telling these projects, like, don't use the word NFT if you're trying to onboard people. And so all to say, who knows why? I don't know why Hermipe wouldn't do that, but I'm sure has been told about it, right? Almost everybody seems to be aware of them on a certain level. So look at this too. I mean, a nice physical, and Hermipe does physicals, as we saw with that woodcut. I guess this is the logo. And so this is the Torch logo. I mean, look at how good of an artist this is. Took this like kind of interesting thing, nice, what I'd call bordering on typical pixel art version of a torch, but nicely stylized. Makes you wonder if we're going to see more of that. Are we going to see a pixelated McDonald's logo? Are we going to see a pixelated Coke logo at some point? If you wanted to refresh, it seems like a pretty rad way to do it. It doesn't it? I mean, I kind of feel like something's happening here with the pixel art. I discussed it last time with Manadal, and we've been discussing it really for 2 years, going on 2 years here, maybe longer. We've been going for over 2 years here. So it's quite interesting. I'm not sure how these other pieces here fit in, but what just final kind of thought experiment for you, visual thought experiment for you. Which of these four works stands out the most as kind of grabbing your attention as far as the work itself? I mean, this just kind of leaps off the photo, doesn't it? Leaps off the white page here. Stunning, even with the logo here, and then doing torch in pixelation, and then whatever is done over here. And you know what I see here? Let me see if I can finally zoom in here. Is this exactly what we were discussing before? You see the big pixels here and the tiny pixels here, if you can see that. Very interesting. So variation in pixel size, no small issue, I would argue. I brought up a few things. Again, it's kind of like this mysterious feed for me because of the language and even it just being a very, I've never been to Japan. It makes me want to go though. And it makes you wonder how much of a pixel art scene there is here. I showed her my painting and she seemed very happy to this little cuckoo flower that bloomed. It's a wonderful piece of work. So is this a painting? It almost looks like a Polaroid. And so what I love about this artist as well, who I think has shows as well, we'll look at the Instagram, where I think they have art shows as well. So this is a real interesting artist who is working for Starbucks, has art shows, I think, like solo art shows in Japan, is doing pixel art, but is going, not just staying, in digital, but doing all these different variations. Again, traveling through the medium seemingly consciously. And the pixel art itself showing a kind of stylistically, I would say fairly original. Doesn't really look like other pixel art, does it? And I think part of it are the diagonals. But I'm kind of back also like these diagonals here, where it almost looks like it's flat, right? But it's not. It's these tiny pixels. Like, I think that's the secret sauce here, if I had to speculate. One of the secret sauces, but maybe the main one, is small and large, and that creating a nice contrast. And when you zoom out, this looks flat, this looks straight, and so just, yes. So all quite interesting. And again, you compare it with something like this, and this just feels kind of flatter, doesn't it? It doesn't have that kind of contrast, that arty, that poetic flair that we see in Torch Torch. So just super interesting. What else did I bring up here? This is right? Such an interesting artist. Tiger with occasional additions. So this is a tiger. And I don't even know. Like look at this. And you see the little grid even. I don't know if you can see that. Is this manually done? It looks, you know what this looks like? This looks like an outdoor screen where every little, if you know what I'm saying, to keep the bugs out, like a windscreen or something where the sliding door where the wind can come in from outside but not the bugs. That's kind of what this looks like. And this artist seems to have filled in the little squares here, if I am not mistaken. And look with this rad signature, Hermepe, for lack, I don't know, again, Hermepe. And there is the tiger. So, long overdue here for starting the show. It has been tempting many times. A real innovator we've got here. Let's not forget this. These Riso prints. And pixel art and Riso, again, made to order. These are classic, Riso colors here. And look at this. The boldness in, what does that even say? Melted room. You can't even really read the melted part. And I love how the artist isn't worrying about making sure you can read, again, the room. It's very gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. So just kind of interesting. And it looks like, is this for a show? I had a strange relationship with the gallery. So new Rizos, collages, paintings, and archives exhibition in Yamaguchi Prefecture. So who knows how long this person has been making pixel art? Maybe it says, I've had a strange relationship with the gallery for more than 10 years, and finally being able to work together has fulfilled my long-standing memories, or ambition perhaps. First day, there will be an on-site production event with live drawings. So, and this is in Ube City, I assume Yamaguchi Prefecture. I assume that's Japan. So many question marks around all of this. Is there a scene? Is this person kind of on their own? When you go through their Twitter feed, you do start to see other kind of cousins, you might say, visual cousins, you might say, being retweeted. So just a super interesting, and here I think working, look at this. And I may have brought this up in a later tab. So again, look at what we're doing here. So what do you call this? I want to call it a silhouette. It's not that. It is, but where you cut it out, probably laser engraving. Remember Element Lee doing laser engraving, again, for Elements pixel art. And we have a really cool thing by Element Lee coming up here. So here, this kind of looks like lasered out to get that perfect, but not positive. This may be manual. It is possible this is manual. And there's something else just from a technical point of view that people like myself really would notice if you've actually tried to do this kind of thing with pixel art is, look at how, this almost looks like sandpaper, right? This is, I think, this looks, and what is sandpaper? If you want, you can get it really thick. So this is a way to get kind of a thicker, and the word is escaping me. Maybe they have it here. It was perfect. I love it. Uh, the word, but where you cut stuff out, I want to say it's not a decal. There, the word is escaping me here. But you know what I'm saying. You're seeing it. And then there for the skateboard. So very, very, very interesting. And this was, I was talking about the visual cousins here. So this is M7 Kenji, who I want to make sure I'm following. I may already follow M7 Kenji, but perhaps I don't. And look at this. And it makes you wonder, like, is there a kind of scene here? Is this a bit of a Japan thing? Or is this a bit of a thing in Japan? Shall we call it that? So very interesting. Very interesting. And of course, pixel art's been around for a while. We're all familiar with it. I mean, and again, I would argue, and this isn't, but I'm not sure if it's true. I was going to say, is it a product of the second generation of digital art, in a sense, post Mac interface, post mouse, post, where you don't have to program in? And I'm not sure it is. I suspect there probably was generative art before, where it's like fill in, this area here and it being a square. So that I don't know. But in terms of composing works and whatnot, like we do have dithering in that very early, I can't remember the name of the Mac designer, Susan something. And we see these beautiful early Mac kind of drawings using Mac Paint, celebrating the dithering. We've looked at that like a long time ago on the show. So this appreciation for dithering or the pixelation as being an art form, I would argue goes all the way back, at least, let's put it this way, to like the Mac. Let's call it mid to late 80s. That this kind of exists as a kind of aesthetic appreciation. It may go further back, but I would say it at least goes to there. But the big question I'm trying to ask is, are we going to see kind of a new push? Are we seeing a bit of a thing where all of a sudden, as digital art kind of almost starts to, shake itself off from the contemporary art world, potentially, is one way of looking at it, and shake off that and re-beginning a kind of tradition and going back to that unit, the essential, unit of digital art, the pixel. Is that kind of what we're seeing here? To quote Devo, a kind of new tradition is, and it's sort of like, okay, it's existed, but I feel like there's a new wave, shall we call it, of this kind of pixel art. We've been seeing it. You've seen Rada. It was kind of like, and you see it in the crypto art scene, so to speak, or the crypto scene. There's been a real appreciation for pixel art. It's a thing. And as Kiro pointed out, in the early 2000s with eBoy, which is a duo out of Germany, real pioneers of pixel art. So it's a weird, interesting history that I'm still trying to work out. But I feel like there's a bit of a wave is happening. Is it a new wave? I don't know. But there's a bit of a wave of pixel art coming where it's kind of being re-examined, reconsidered, and kind of in a more, I would argue, kind of arty way, shall we say. Like, as you come back every time, it's going to be slightly more with a more of a, I don't want to call it sophistication, because early work is sophisticated, but with kind of, further and further down you go. There's a difference between techno that came out in 1988 and techno that came out in 1998. And it's not to say one is better than the other, but you can see an evolution in the production, right? Or here. Evolution in the production. So anyways, when I see these other works, which look like, these are like badges, I guess, or patches, right? This is, and so this is like a form of textile, right? Textile art. So this is all, and just on an aesthetic level, isn't that like, wouldn't you love to own this? Like, when you see that as a collector of, say, digital art, like, wouldn't you go, oh, as far as like, I wouldn't mind owning that. Right? Like there's something kind of collectible and valuable about it just on a purely visual level. Like you kind of want it. right? Which also says something. This is back to Hermipe, and this is some more kind of textile business here, which came from this jacket, I think. So, also interesting, right? And so here, I don't know if that is Hermipe. This says WL No Fan. This Sukajan jacket made by Hermipe is so cool. I was especially thrilled when I saw the mansion on the back. I definitely want one. So let's see if we can see the mansion on the back. So I think I may even have this work coming up here. Okay, it's a different work. What does this say? I want to emigrate. So again, what do we see here? Small pixels, bigger pixels over here. A little bit of animation. Very interesting. And finally, a couple of works here. Let me just make this a little bigger. And love what's going on here. So this still life. So a new way, again, of tackling old, subjects, like the still life here. And again, very simply, how many colors is this? 4? 2 shades of gray, black and white? I mean, that's what it looks like to me. And again, what you see here is because the pixel size is so small here, it almost looks smooth, but it's not. And again, my final thing that I always say here as we move on to the comments, I just go Bitcoin. What if, and some people are probably really tired of me saying this. What if this was on Bitcoin? What if Hermipe put, all decided I am going to put work on the blockchain, started putting it on Bitcoin? What does that go for? Just really interesting. There's those 3 hearts again. Interesting. And so as we take a final look here, here are the 3 hearts. Maybe it's a bit of a signature for Hermipe. And here almost like playing, I think manually done, but maybe copying over. Not sure. Maybe there's a different kind of brush. That's the wide brush. Contrasting with these square brushes, kind of almost, along the lines of these different screen renderings that you get, kind of has a similar effect here where you have the square over top of the horizontal pixels. Interesting 7x, just weird sort of writing. Even just this line, finally. Weird, right? So anyway, more pixel art here. Okay, thank you everybody for the support here on the show. 360. Are there no comments? Well, we have lots of comments. I thought we had comments. There were comments on the last show, actually, but it does remind me. There were comments that came in for sure. There was one new comment I wanted to, and I may have had a couple, but this was a new one I did want to highlight, which is by Nicholas Dietrich, regarding a revolutionary new art movement, ? And saying, Nicholas Dietrich, it sure is a revolutionary movement. Great show as always, Adrian, and thanks for the mention. Interesting. We have lots of comments here on X. So again, thank you for the massive support on that episode. Enigmatrix, always a pleasure to be on your journal. The second work is actually based on one painting. It is this one. Found it to be an extremely complex and exceptionally well executed work and decided to modify it with many different ASCII elements, even also working with the Tools app. Is that the app? Is that the one we were looking at the other day? I think it is. That was posted by Rosetio. I almost forgot about that already. There are so many apps. I'm already like, if I want to put a work on chain on Tezos, where's that link again? Right? I'm sure it is in the community. So anyways, thank you. What a gorgeous painting this is. I feel like I've seen it before. It's familiar, but I would never know who this is. And yeah, cool choice, Enigmatrix. Thank you for the comment. Also, Zani Yagar, let's go. Awesome. Love the vibe. Pedro Jose, just in time for my coffee and artist journal. Indeed. Lena Eckert, thanks a lot, Adrian. Awesome to hear from you, Lena. That was very cool work. And I think we might have a comment, perhaps. I got some of the retweets out there, too. August Ground, thank you for the comment. August Ground, I think it's worth pursuing the line of thought around interpolation and filters and AI in regard to the inputs being unfinished, as you mentioned. It is a very specific phenomenon of this sort of folding of the work into new iterations, different than collage. I'm not even sure it is a remix that incorporates the filter as much as the content. The new work is as much a product of what is lost are skewed as much as what is refined in the old paradigm. Why would a master destroy something so labored on? Very interesting. Also, in the narrative structure that we traditionally have followed in the GIF form and shortened video, there's a flattening of predictability, which dovetails conceptually with the erasure of refined detail. Maybe I had one glass of wine too much last night. I'm not exactly sure. The line of thought around interpolation and filters and AI regarding to inputs being unfinished, maybe referring to like the works we're seeing by Skamra and RJ, perhaps. I'm wondering. And these kind of, the look. Yeah, the non-finito look. So interesting. Thank you for the comment, August. I'll have to think about that a little bit more. I wasn't quite sure, actually, what that meant. Retro Manny, appreciate you discussing my post. Yes, there's a lot of truth in your response. I was more asking the questions. Personally, the only things I can be a maxi on in this space is myself and the friendships I have made here. Hilarious. I use Tez and Object because they are solid, with Object having impeccable customer service. That's great. Glad to hear that. That matters. The details matter on that sort of stuff. They provide an ease of it. You know what that shows? When there's good customer service, generally that shows good management. I would dare say. So another good sign, and it kind of falls into place. Oh, it has a great user interface. It's an excellent website. Why? And I've commented on this a lot, like whoever's running Object seems to really know what they're doing, as well as the whole team and everyone. But yeah, you need people at the top who know what they're doing. Who are not making terrible decisions, and then who are making sure they have the right people, etc. So there you go, good customer service. They provide an ease of use to build out my universe and a consistent collector base that inspires me to keep creating. Indeed, this is like probably the big sell on, Tezos and the blockchain and everything. You can build out your kind of own little universe and have collectors potentially if you can resonate, if your work resonates. So yeah, the money plays a part for sure. It just so happens that Tezos community has some of the nicest people on the internet. That's what encourages me to show up every day. It's kind of like being friends with your coworkers. It helps you enjoy the experience more. So Manny, loving the Tezos experience, and I think a lot of us are. Like, what would, it's just another kind of thought experiment. Like, what would the scene be without without what's happening on Tezos? Like, would it be as vibrant? It's an interesting question. Like, would it all exist on base or something? Because in a sense, one could ask oneself, where is the credible marketplace that didn't cost a fortune to mint on? Because Ethereum was expensive until recently with these layer 2s. Where would that have been cultivated and fed and grown and evolved from? Interesting question. I don't know. Because Ethereum was too expensive, right? So interesting. Rosetio, yes, the artist is Lola Dupre. Lola creates paper collage, and also participating in the latest fake whales. So I saw this, I think, actually Walk maybe picked this up. That's where I saw it in a retweet. So cool. It kind of reminds me of that Warhol with 3 eyes. Here we have a cat with 6 eyes. Pretty cool work. I don't know if this is AI. I don't know too much. Interesting mark making there in the background there too. Kind of looks like digital, but not sure. Yeah, interesting piece. Cool texture. There's Walk Books. Shout out to Walk. Lena Eckhart, Ivan Hugo, who was in this show awesomely. I thought I did. Okay, good. Thank you so much for talk about my work, Pocobelli. I am extremely honored. This GM Sunflower GLB is an experiment I've been doing about transparencies versus color grading and how they are influenced by other colors in different layers. Yeah, it's great to have your work on, Ivan, and it looked really cool. So thank you for expanding on that. For those that want to check it out, Ivan Hugo is on Tezos. And here, let's just do this quickly, and also on Warp and Instagram. So there you go. Let's continue. Manidal. Thank you so much for sharing my cat. So, of course, Manidal, the wonderful artist, as well as P1, who made this wonderful pixel artwork, Manidal and P1. So let's see what Manidal had to say with the big cat. Oh, thank you so much for sharing my cat art and music with P with the 1 on your channel. We are really glad with your kind words and appreciate you. Pocobelli, thank you. So that is awesome. And also Bite by Bit with some info here. Thank you for featuring my work. Fanavision can do it. Yes, you're right. So, referring to this kind of musical interface that was here, we can change the wave of the tone and change the frequency there, even though only have 2 seconds to sound it. You know what's interesting? The first programs I ever tried to make with my PC computer in the mid 90s, actually, probably early 90s to mid 90s. Shout out to mom who bought a computer for me. I was lucky that way in the early 90s. Middle class family in Canada. I was lucky enough, forward thinking mom, get a computer for the kids. The first programs I tried to make were music programs where I'd try and make little musical compositions. Interestingly, I should have been a brilliant software music guy, but I never really was. I never got trained actually on music, so I never really knew what it was doing. I tried. I tell you, I tried. So very cool. So that is using Fantavision. Thank you, BBB. And also, this was kind of scary. So Ile posted this scary video, I think AI, and it totally creeped me out in a hilarious way. Thank you, Ile. But as you see here, you see almost like an alternative, like this is how AI, it's kind of terrifying, isn't it? And there's some music there, kind of like Goa trance music. So if you're looking to make music, I think it's Suno AI and then Runway ML. So anyways, hilarious. Thank you, Ile. Definitely did a double take there. And of course, I follow Manadal. And again, thank you for the comment. Great to hear from you. This was super interesting. This just showed up as I was preparing the show. I think I did bring it up. Okay, excellent. So we'll take a look at this article. Just a couple of, I did a search on Tezos in the article. It is there. So we'll see what it says here in a couple of minutes. Can London establish itself as digital art capital of the world? So this is by the Art newspaper. So we're going to see, and yeah, and it's kind of interesting within the whole context of, remember how I was just saying, like, can pixel art kind of shake off the contemporary art scene and just kind of almost started kind of new tradition, again, to quote Devo, and just kind of like based on pixel art, which is kind of this unit of, this essential, unit of the digital art canvas, so to speak. This primitive, right? And there they have Kraftwerk, right? So interesting. Retromani, let's see here. A must watch. So this is by Gino. So cool, from crypto to crypto. So it's a little long for... So it looks like maybe that's Dolly Parton, Warhol, Basquiat, all glitched out. So very cool. And that is on Object. So that is available on Object. Or check out the community and you can watch the whole thing. Thank you for posting and pointing that out. Gino, yeah, we've looked at a few works by Gino in the past. Here's Bleak. We looked at a few works the other day. And so also putting out some analog video glitch, a glitch within a glitch. So thank you for posting, Bleak. Very cool. And make sure there's a heart on that. Retromani, Canada ain't the only one who can slide. So maybe this is a character here in Retromani's retro universe. Cool work there. Psychofuturist, sharing that I finalized the tarot series I've been doing, and now there is a generative divination FX hash piece that you can get used to get your reading with the cards from the deck. Wow. So generative divination. Interesting. So can you start to do tarot readings? Thanks everyone for appreciating the cards and the project in the space. It's definitely an original version of the tarot, and I think quite well done. Like, I'd say it's a nice contribution to that tradition of, art of tarot. Very interesting. Yes, weirdly excited about Duran Duran. Indeed. Weirdly excited about Duran Duran the last week, interestingly. My contribution there. Martin Joe. Hi, occasionally I make some physical sculptures. So, Martin Joe, if you don't know, he was on the space. We did a space with Martin a couple of months ago. And he creates helps create these dinosaurs for museums. And out of Argentina, and there he is working on one of these dinosaur sculptures. So how cool is that? So Martin Joe making physical sculptures. Very cool work. He said he loves the work, as far as I remember. Vincent Law, thank you for posting. Cool abstract here, kind of geometric abstract work. Nice gradient in the middle. Nice contrast. 2002 GM. So this is with Blip 281. Interesting piece. This is on Zora. Nice piece here. And there's the link. You can find it in the community. Interesting repetition. Cool team up there. Centaur. And here, this looks kind of risque. So maybe since this is a family show, thank you for posting. And here's Bleak, but since it's a family show, I may go a little quicker on that one. Bleak, First Mint, so another work, more nature, analog video glitch. Itzel Reina, music beat making room. So yeah, it looks like the greatest synth ever. And I think we saw these. Not sure if we saw this one with the garbage. Interesting AI, classic AI distortion here. And there we go. And Ilya Berberin. Actually, we didn't see these. That was me preparing the show. Hi. I thought we saw this, but maybe we did see this last show. Luke 500, Kelly Crow. This is interesting. Watching the London sale right now. I'm watching Christie's right now. 2 years after Sotheby's got $8.4 million for Rene Magritte on the right, Christie's sells a $700,000 pound gouache version of the same motif at left to Jin Lee. I thought this was quite beautiful, this version. This version, probably overpriced. It's cool, but it's not necessarily the funnest Magritte or the most successful. I'd be tempted to say the most successful Magritte I've ever seen. This one was quite beautiful, though. This painterly one. So the gouache sold for $700,000 and the painting sold for $8.4 million. Very interesting. And Kelly Crow, of course, being a very prominent Wall Street Journal arts reporter. Here's this article that was posted in the community. Can London establish itself as digital art capital of the world? In the game-changing era of NFTs and AI, the city's diversified art ecosystem has helped it play catch-up as the medium's global hub. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? I find it kind of obnoxious, I have to say, on a first, just like a first hit. Maybe this all makes sense and everything. But here we go. The contemporary art scene is London, now the capital of everything, and now we all have to go to London. And if you're in Buenos Aires, or you're in Turkey, or you're in Australia, like, sorry, you're out of luck. Like, you need to go to London now to be where the action is. Is that where the art newspaper is based? Like, it seems kind of convenient as well in that respect. And, it's Frieze London 2024 feature. Let's just take a quick look. So there's actually a big art show. I'm actually going to London in December. I'll try and go to this show. So big show at Tate Modern, Electric Dreams, Art and Technology Before the Internet. Brings a fresh London focus this autumn to the burgeoning international digital art scene. Interesting. Frieze this month shows works by both new and established digital artists, the London-based filmmaker Lawrence Leck's Artist Award Commission. I think digital. Again, it's bringing up, I think this is where the contemporary art scene is actually going to crash, or where the trad art scene is going to crash. And this is what I mean. I think, because as you're going to see here, then it goes into all of these, what I would call kind of trad art sanctioned artists. And I think what's going to happen is those works are going to keep on being released. We see, let me just, that's going to crash in, the works that are coming, we saw, say, with Hans Ulrich Obrist, if you saw the tweet where he's, say, working with Tezos and Serpentine, and then all these things you'd never heard of before that were, okay, fine, it looked good, but no kind of awareness of what was going on, let's say, on the Tezos blockchain in general, I would argue, just an interpretation. So I think what's going to happen, and I think it's inevitable, which is why I speculate, but I could be completely wrong. I think the digital art that the trad art scene is going to push is not going to perform as well over time as actually the stuff that's basically coming out of the internet itself, organically, the true international digital art scene. I think that stuff's going to start attracting more collectors. And that is probably going to be, and it might take time. I don't know how long that takes, and pure speculation on my part, just coffee thoughts for you. I don't know when that's going to happen, but when that happens, that'll be the death knell, I would argue, of these establishment. And I don't mean to be too dramatic, but this happens in art over and over again. Remember when the Impressionists came along? What was the big thing? It was probably academic art and, probably even a kind of neoclassicism, right? And the barge and doing all of this, traditional painting. And then the Impressionists come and then nobody really respected that. And all of a sudden, eventually the old guard gets basically, loses their establishment position. Let's just put it that way. And I suspect that it's going to be in the digital art sphere where this is going to happen. If the trad art scene doesn't embrace what's going on in the international, the true international digital art scene. So it's a really long article. There is some Tezos in here. Let's just kind of take a few bits and pieces that kind of jump out at us. Catherine Mason, a leading historian of digital art, tells the Art newspaper that when she started studying the history of computer art in 2002, almost no one in the art world was interested. Now, with a younger generation and the entry of digital art into the commercial art market, digital art is having a moment. Interesting. So it's, again, it's a very, I'll have to read this. It was literally posted as I was hitting record here. It is not only institutions which have endured. Artists such as Ernest Edmonds span the whole of London's digital art history. He tells the Art newspaper that, quote, nearly all digital artists connected to London were members of the Computer Arts Society. And I really question that. Like, how many artists are there that probably weren't? But what do I know? That's a historian. So what do I know? But I mean, these kind of broad. So now everybody that made art that was not as connected to it is no longer, Edmonds worked at the Slade and at many of the polytechnics and universities promoting and guiding art research programs. He sees the journey of digital art from outside the center's natural long-form cycle. This is interesting. The often uneasy relationship between digital art and the mainstream art world has left institutional gaps. I wonder what they mean by the mainstream between the digital art and the mainstream. I guess, what do they mean by... so both Tate and the V&A hold digital art collections, but they are relatively small. So good news for collectors out here, potentially. Melanie Lenz, the V&A's curator of digital art, tells the Art newspaper that, quote, the V&A first acquired computer-generated art in 1969, but it wasn't until the late 2000s that the digital art collection was significantly enhanced with the acquisition of some 250 artworks. Tate has tended more to tactical commissions, such as its 1983 exhibition of AI art pioneer Harold Cohen, or 15 works of net art it produced between 2000 and 2011. Now, I think they also mention Tezos. Actually, they do. I know they do. Here's where the Tezos, beyond these global giants, referring to VR programs with Google, HTC, beyond these global giants, the London-based VR platform Vortic has set a benchmark since 2020 for virtual art shows. Meanwhile, I've never even heard, but I mean, that would be my fault, my issue, not theirs. Meanwhile, companies in the Web3 universe are supporting digital art, most notably the blockchain platform Tezos, whose foundation, and why is Tezos relevant? Whose foundation supports the Serpentine's future art ecosystems, creative research, and innovation programs. So this is kind of what I'm saying. I suspect the trad art world is going to come in here with their own kind of sanctioned, this is good art thing, but I think they're going to have a problem. Because the market is, first of all, if the market remains free, and there's no reason to think it won't, I think over time the art itself will win out, which is, I'd argue, because structurally the lack of a gate, the openness of what's going on Tezos, where you, dear listener, if you've never done it, can set up and put your art on there today. The free market also existing there. This dynamic, and also a credible platform, right? Those three things, I think, the openness will actually win out in the long run against the people that are trying to tell you how to think, dare I say. Okay? I mean, it's been going on for a long time here. And so now it's like, well, now we have to care about Tezos because Serpentine is involved, right? Maybe I'm being too edgy here for a Friday. Let's continue. Digital arts. So I think maybe that's enough, actually. So is there any other mention of Tezos here? Just that, within the context of Serpentine. So you see, it's a pretty large article, long article. The digital arts literacy, which Paul calls an understanding of the digital medium's aesthetic language. You know, we're talking about similar things here. Let's just read this last paragraph, because we're talking about different languages, visual languages, right? It's kind of topical for us. The spotlight put on digital art by AI and NFTs, by the pandemic, and by the rise of the immersive institution has seen it, says Paul, expand, quote, so much it has become less unified and operates more in local scenes. That leaves digital arts literacy and what Paul calls a, quote, understanding of the digital medium's aesthetic language, end quote, as the critical issue, which will keep digital art front and center as attention on the latest technology hype cycle dims and fades. So, yeah, so it's coming from a completely different angle here, to state the obvious. So just interesting. Art newspaper. There is Kelly Crow's tweet, so we saw this. Just a quick follow-up on, remember I was discussing Uncle Scrooge. So Uncle Scrooge was in fact invented by Carl Barks. He's credited with creating Uncle Scrooge McDuck. He first appeared in Barks' 1947 comic story Christmas on Bear Mountain, published by Dell Comics. So 1947. Scrooge was initially introduced as a supporting character for Donald Duck, but quickly became popular. Huey, Dewey, and Louie were created by someone else. The three mischievous nephews of Donald Duck were not created by Carl Barks, but by cartoonist Ted Osborne and artist Al Taliaferro, a great duck artist here, another great. The trio first appeared in Donald Duck's Sunday comic strip on October 17th, 1937, and later made their animated debut in 1938 short film Donald's Nephews. Though Barks did not invent them, he significantly developed their personalities and adventures in his comics, making them key characters in the larger Duck universe. Here is the first appearance, Christmas on Bear Mountain, of Uncle Scrooge. There's something very important that I also wanted to show here, which is Carl Barks, and thank you for your patience, but it is well worth it. Here it is. This is a very important thing that I'm going to show you here, I would argue, which is a window on the creative process. Because you go, Uncle Scrooge, one of the great characters of animation of the last 150 years, you could argue. Scrooge McDuck, fantastic. If you ever, how was it invented? Was Carl Barks going, I want to create a character, I need to create a really great character, and this is how, and what is it going to be? It's going to be Scrooge McDuck. And how did it come about? In a 1962 interview, Barks said that he had no thoughts of making Scrooge a recurring character at the time. Quote, I just needed a rich uncle for the story I was going to do. I thought of the situation of Donald having to do with Christmas and Donald getting involved with a bear up in the mountains. Somebody had to own this cabin he was going to, so I invented Uncle Scrooge as the owner of the cabin. And to me, this is a real moral of the story as far as creativity is concerned. This is why it's about doing the work as an artist and just showing up, so to speak, 9 to 5. Because it's just about trying to get things working that you're going to stumble upon great things along the way. But if you're just trying to go, I'm going to create a great thing, and then it's not necessarily going to work out as well. Just put in the time, do the work, do the basic stuff, and great things will probably happen along the way. Barks expanded on this in 1975. Quote, I had to get a Christmas story going, and somehow a person just automatically goes back to the old Dickens Scrooge story, the old classic, because part of the things that go along with Christmas, like the ringing of bells and singing of carols and so on, is the repetition of the old Scrooge classic. Of course, every year I watch that movie, almost. So I got to thinking of an old rich uncle, and gradually the story just kept building. I can't say where these things come from. I have a situation that has to be solved, and somehow all the parts just commenced coming into my head from someplace, and I just fit them together. And pretty soon I had fitted together a story of the ducks getting permission from their rich uncle to go up to Bear Mountain and use his cabin overnight. Well, that, of course, meant that the rich uncle had to have a reason for doing that, so I brought in this thought that he wanted to know whether Donald was a real brave duck, and that led to the bear and the situation of testing Donald's courage. That's the way those stories build. I have a bunch of things that need to go into a story, so I just keep feeling around for the best gags that fit in. It's like sewing together pieces of a shirt. And it also reminds you of Stan Lee, where he would give very loose outlines to the artists, and the artists would kind of make the story visually, and then Stan Lee would come back in, the Marvel method, would come back in and start going, okay, what words are going to fit in here? And then we have the 1960s Marvel Universe. Quite a lot of creativity going down there. Similar process, so super interesting. And finally, there is the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge. Donald Duck Christmas on Bear Mountain. And you see just what a genius Carl Barks is here. Let's continue. Guess who's back? All your favorite Brazilian artists. Beautifully put, LB. Loved. This is awesome. Great visual communication here. The celebration, all the little heads appearing. So happy to hear that. We're not going to be able to go into all of this. This is a long post. I thought it was kind of controversial, which we love here. Art the Mort. We expect trad art to be our exit liquidity. I'm not going to read all this, but I'm going to just get you the gist of it. Well, we are in fact going to be the exit liquidity of the trad art market. So I've always said that I have much more conviction that NFT collectors will branch out to contemporary art than the opposite. The example of the ones who did are the only exceptions that confirm the rule, in my opinion. I've seen quite a few new collectors come to the stage in the bear, and almost all were fairly young, former current crypto traders who are looking for more than just getting financial capital. I actually don't agree. I think that will happen. Let's say you make it rich in crypto and you have a lot of money. Sure. Maybe you're going to end up in the trad art market just because, hey, okay, let's get some fancy Damien Hirst for the apartment. Why not? But I think the general trend, I'm not sure I agree with this, but it could be. But I think a wonderful provocation from Art the Mort. Just finally, galleries have had huge challenges renewing their collector base for over two decades now. Like, to me, there's a reason for that. The more time, and then you're seeing all this excitement in the digital art scene, as Art Newspaper is saying. I think the reason digital art is so exciting is because people are going, oh, thank God. There's something else here that we can kind of look at, and maybe there's something more exciting going on here. I think, I don't like to be so blunt about it. And I'm painting with a broad brush, okay? So it doesn't include everyone, and we think of Josh's comment. There's a lot of genius in contemporary art as well. So let's putting that aside. But as the general viewer collector experience is concerned, all of a sudden digital, on a personal level, and I can only speak from that perspective, I get so much more delight out of the digital world right now than out of going to, and hey, tonight I'll go to a James Turrell exhibition. I'm not sure if Turrell's still alive, but guided tour, and then I'll go to a contemporary art show photographer afterwards. So it's not like I am hostile, right? Since people have brought that up in the past. But, I'm just speaking generally here. I think we see where the wind's blowing, so to speak. So it's a little long, unfortunately. But I'm not sure. I think a nice provocation. I would disagree. I think it's going to be the opposite. I think you're going to get exceptions of people who are super rich in crypto, then fine. And there's even people who aren't super rich. But generally speaking, I think the great collectors in the trad art scene they're already starting to not spend. So why are the new people going to come in who are already probably younger, who are already digitally oriented? Are they going to come in and start buying all the contemporary art? I find it hard to see that doesn't even, I would argue, really resonate with someone that's 20 years old. What is it like? What does it have to say? What is the bond? What is the relationship that is being built here? For these people to want to go, hey, I want this, other than some kind of status. And sure, sometimes, again, there always exceptions to this, and there are brilliant works in the contemporary art scene. But just to generalize in the overall trends, like I don't see it. But fascinating, and we had a great space with Art the Mart. We'll have to bring him back on. Layla, we dress up and talk the talk at Frieze Art Fair. What's sold as profound is too often just a commodity with a clever narrative propped up by a market that values the price tag over the idea. So a different view here from, I think, from Verse. Layla from Verse, helping build VerseWorks. Shloms has no patience, so this is some artist who is, I think, doing something at the show, but interesting comment. Right, I think that's the general sense, and let's face it, I'm not coming here as some kind of outsider. Like most contemporary art people I talk to agree with everything that I'm saying, generally speaking. It's not like they would go, how dare you? They'd go like, hell yeah. Yeah, like we're sick of it. Like we, like it's not like I'm going in as some outsider, throwing, stones from a glass house here. I'm going as someone that's kind of lived and breathed. I moved to Berlin for this reason. Okay, so yeah, so I know you have conversations with people. Like people aren't like they don't have any sort of delusions, generally speaking, about what's happening here. Some more than others. Some people do, and some people are really passionate and high conviction. But now this was kind of weird, and I don't want to. We're already going super long here. This is Art Run, and I just had to highlight it though. So for whatever reason, the crypto scene is trying to push this idea of art coins. So basically meme coins, but with art on it. ArtRun is a platform powered by Zora and Base for creating and trading art coins, a hybrid of meme coins and NFTs. You know why I don't think this is going to work? And I could be totally wrong. I've been so wrong about so many things in crypto. This could totally take off. They're really trying to push this. This is like a VC pushed. This is like Straight Talk Friday here with Pocobelli. This seems like another kind of VC pushed, like, we think this art coin thing's going to happen. I have yet to see it really catch on. And the reason I don't think it's going to work is for this reason. Meme coins, what's a meme coin? It's basically based on the name, right? So it's like you have like 4 or 5 letters. It is a very simple message. It is almost like it's that unit of meaning. Like it is just like 4 letters, SPX 6900. We're going to flip, and the message, we're going to flip the S&P 500. And that's it, right? So the problem with art is it's so much more complicated. And so are you going to get a whole bunch of people collecting on a visual image? Maybe it's like, okay, well, if they can with a meme, is probably the rationale that's going here. If people can kind of latch onto memes, then why wouldn't they necessarily invest in that? And you start to see the thinking here. It's probably like, hey, if a meme can go crazy, maybe this should be monetized, right? But I just, it feels forced is kind of how it feels to me. I may be completely wrong on this. Just more speculation here on our straightforward Fridays here. Mint the launch at Run for free 24 hours. So there it is if you are interested. And let me just make sure to close that. Michael Micasso made a nice sale here on this on-chain art piece. First work on Super Rare, half an ETH. Nice sale. And of course, this beautifully small work here, and which expands quite nicely in the browser, I have to say. So congrats to Michael Micasso. Kind of seeing a bit of a resurgence of 8bidoo. Also on chain, I might add. I think it was because Yuri J's works probably were getting so expensive and hard to get that people started collecting the 8bidoo works, and then they started going for a lot of money. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder if we're going to see a resurgence of 8bidoo, and I think that would be great. I'm kind of tempted to put work on 8bidoo. I think people should, because if these platforms don't get used, sometimes they just go out of business, as we saw with typed art. So I think that would be a good thing. Look at Element Lee. So again, look at this, a micro abstract inkjet painting. So look at this. So Element Lee, just a little detail. Looks like inkjet on paper. Maybe this is a gray where you see like the little dots. I don't know if you can see that. See the little dots here? Kind of looks, so I guess that's the gray. And then pouring a little bit of water on this inkjet to let it kind of turn into a painting of sorts. Pretty interesting. I have to say, This is interesting too. It almost looks like water has been put inside the square here. I don't know. But just interesting experimentation there. Luciana Guerra, who of course I follow, work in progress with 3D print pen, drawing in space, exploring the infinite possibilities of lines in space. So here is Luciana Guerra, and yeah, so work in progress with 3D print pen, drawing in space. So not exactly sure, but it almost seems like wiring. So just kind of interesting to look at. And here, there it is. It is like wiring. I didn't realize that. Oh, so this is like a 3D pen. One of those pens that you can literally draw through the air. Very interesting. From Luciana Guerra. Vercluzzi physical prints, fresh from the oven. So very cool. Interesting little colors going on here too, so looking cool. Kind of nice paper there too. Andrea Oliveira Cebola, the glitch machine. During my time off Twitter, I produced a lot of things, and this machine was one of them. Electronic art, creative coding, C++ to generate 1-bit glitches with integrated screen and 2 video outputs. So without, spending time on Twitter, I was making all sorts of interesting business here. Look at that. Pretty rad. So let's just quickly scroll through that. So very interesting stuff from Andre Oliveira Cebola. And here's Ed Marola, for also busy while not on Twitter. For NFT Brazil, I was invited to make some content for the immersive room. So I wrote a 2.5-minute dream about bubbles, made tons of renders of pixel art on Blender with help from Koshino, got my friend Salvadox to edit in the final video. Look at how cool that looks. So there is Ed's work kind of put in Blender, or 3Dified. Pretty cool. And you gotta love the floor to ceiling projection and Kelowna Contemporary, 18 months. How time flies. I can't believe it's already 18 months since we opened our doors in May 23. Wow, has it been 18 months since May of 23? That's wild. I'm so proud of all the work we've done since then. And here, the premise of Kelowna was simple. We noticed a dramatically changing art landscape with the advent of digitization and the transformative implication of blockchain technology, and tried to create a reliable and trustworthy space to educate and inspire. I hope we've done well. Well, I think they've done fabulously, and there they are. So congratulations to Kelowna Contemporary. As we begin the works here, so Spiegel's Maskinen putting out some kind of wild gifts here. I don't think these have been released yet, so pretty interesting piece here. Kind of old computer with a face coming out of it. And here's another one, output one. So kind of like a work in progress, posting some of the outputs here in this beautiful computer. And you can see, so playing with different kinds of animation. Again, love this computer here. This is beautifully done. Even the square area there, beautiful. So Spiegel's super talented artist. And there's a still. Guten Morgen. Here's Haiti Rocket in the fake whale art market, custom colors. And so this is pretty cool. Bringing in the Photoshop, or at least the color menus, and a little bit of kind of strong colors. What would it be? Like some of the rainbow colors on the floor there. Kind of classic Haiti Rocket work. And that is an edition of 23 and selling at 42. And already, how many gone? 10 gone. So cool work there. Here's Dan Control. And kind of love this one with the iron and the shirts and the suit and kind of, and the ironing board and the sun. It's like the elements of a business person's day, shall we say. Here, all, it just evokes morning on your way to work. Lines of Smoke, also by Dan Control. I guess Zora's putting a QR code in the corner here. You can't get rid of it. And interesting piece. So Dan Control, always kind of provocative in the way that he reuses elements. And here, I'd say brilliantly, putting, probably like the source, some of the the underlying structure of some of the gradient works that he makes. Well, here's probably, the first kind of outline, so to speak, that then he puts the gradients on, and then he gets rid of the outline, I suspect. Let's turn that into a work. It looks pretty cool. Would make a nice print, frankly. Very cool. Here is Nov 1914 Siesta. And very cool. Who's this based on? Pablo Picasso. Interesting. I'm trying to think of the Picasso. Very nice piece here. Look at that. And what happened on the market? Edition of 10, probably sold out right away. 15 Tezos. Yeah, sold out within an hour. So another 150 Tezos for Nov 1914. Beautiful work. Here's a cool gradient here. Colors from the Sea. And a very nice gradient piece. Gorgeous color from Rannoch Steer, and interesting kind of framing device here too. Check this out. It's on Art Run. And I think that takes works from Zora, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure where, or if it was minted here. I don't know. But all to say, so 367 minted, pretty good. So nice work. You can't maximize it here. And I guess this is the place where you speculate on. Should we look at the homepage very quickly? Here we go. So 56,000 of Art Run launch. So who knows? Market cap $85,000. Wow. So here you see, like, we're in the thick of it here. Maybe this turns into a whole thing. You know, market cap $43,000. Market cap $57,000. Doodle certificate. Certified, $33,000. So, kind of wild, hey? Very wild. Who knows? Maybe it turns out like really cool. I don't know. The Myth Sun 38. So very cool work here. And there you see the Mike Tyson tattoo on what looks like, I think that's Kanye. Not sure. So interesting combination. Love the color in the background. Picked up by Mikey Wilson for 125 Tezos. Nice piece. New Miss Sun. Bazaya, Punisher at the plate. Rad work here. The Punishers by Bazaya. And here we see, I thought it was, I really liked this portrait. And really nice, the buttons there too in the details. I thought just a fun one. And Punisher at the plate, edition of 10, sold out at, I assume, 5 Tezos. And the flippers are going crazy, relisting. So that series continues, super cool series. Almost Pulp Fiction by L'Inquisiteur. I thought this was a great painting. You see what looks like Samuel L. Jackson, and is that supposed, I'm not sure, that looks like a guy from A Clockwork Orange rather than John Travolta. And then maybe this is a robbery here, over there. So I really love the perspective of this work. It's a really nice painting. Like, I love all the different kind of cubicles or booths, I guess you'd call them. The perspective's awesome on this one. Like, it just gives a very dynamic image. Edition of 15, $3.99, still available. And let us continue here. Here's Sumi Reyusi. This was just posted. Feed the Fire, edition of 1. And so cool work here, classic piano on fire, and huge piece here. And there is some candles and a nude playing the piano, interestingly, with almost a crown of thorns, but they are actually devil angels of some kind. And these are matchsticks. So interesting painting here. Let's look at the grass quickly. And there, so huge work here. 10,000 by 12,000. Wow. By Sumi Reyusi. And this has been listed for 500 Tezos. Classic artists there. Here's Rare, who of course I follow. I believe this is a work in progress. And so there's Spot, the bionic dog, and a palm tree on the beach there. Beautifully painted here by Rare. This one was kind of funny. Scorpion Dagger. I thought it was really well done. It's not usually my thing, these kind of humor works, but I thought it was actually kind of well done. A little bit of audio here. Weirdly well done. I mean, it's cool. So interesting animation of this old painting too. So interesting. Noodle Arms, edition of 25, selling for 50 Tezos each, amazingly. Scorpion Dagger, so nice piece. That's in the fake whale art market. This was super interesting. Community 2024 edition. So if you're familiar, this is a classic work by RJ. And this is from January 2022. Community, right? Kind of ironic. There's the sad person with the computer and the little knit Pepe shirt. Beautiful pixel artwork. So applying new techniques here, the new kind of technique that RJ has been working with, and Community 2024 edition. So super interesting, isn't it? And even this concept of being able to remix your old works. Now Pepe is on the wall too here. So I just find this super interesting from a conceptual as well as an execution. Very interesting work. We have a couple others. I find this subject, increasingly moving the older I get, which is animals and eating animals. I still eat meat, but I try not to. And it is partly for the moral reasons. It's also about health, but it's also about So I think this juxtaposition of, putting animals in front of at least like a pig here, it's not like you're eating a dog or the bird here, but at least I find the juxtaposition, especially of the pig, let's say, in front of the Arby's, you put a cow or something. Maybe it's too didactic if you were to just do that. So RJ, I think, knows what he's doing here by putting these other animals. Interesting. So we have the meats. So maybe this will go on Foundation with the other ones. Not sure where it will be posted. Helio Santos. So a cool work here on Object. As you see, so Helio Santos has done a ton of work, kind of created his own kind of paint plotter. Remember those works? And so an interesting piece here, which kind of feels like a physical base of the work. I don't know. And then it's almost like these squares are being abstracted, like averaged out or selected out of this painting and put on top. Pretty cool work. Interesting piece, isn't it? Landscape generated from synthetic images. For this piece, a Python script was created to detect the dominant colors in an image and generate an animation. So there you have it. So 11 Tezos, and that is on Object. Flying Cloud, inspired by Dinosaur Jr.'s 1991 track Flying Cloud. Nice piece here. Never seen this artist before. I thought a pretty kind of different kind of abstract for us. Cool work. So that is by Lobsta Fradiovlo. And let's just see what happened here. So transferred to artists. Wow. So how many? 70th listing. So I think edition of 111. Okay. Cool work. Tormius, who I don't think I've heard of. This is on Super Rare. This is called Prelimbus. I need to get rid of the Phantom Wallet because now it's going to try and load up on every time I load up an Ethereum-based marketplace. Interesting work here as we keep on exploring the blockchain here. So having a little bit of issues with the magnifier. So there you have it. So kind of interesting, I'd call it an abstract illustration if I had to. And you see there's little, not entirely abstract though. You see a face, you see the sun, you see floors, so recognizable objects, but kind of all intermixed. Interesting piece. This is 1.69 ETH at a list price on Super Rare. The centerpiece of art lot 1001 of 001. Interesting piece from Sabato here, from the Marginalia account. So that's kind of like the more, I guess, the sadder account by Sabato, The Great Divide. And here we have, interestingly, kind of bringing up, I think it's actually a great topic here. I mean, it kind of recalls Ballard's Death of Effect, that we no longer, everything's become abstracted. And here is this scene of chaos and war and tumult, and here everything being reduced to words, right? And the production and everything, and the disconnect between the two. I assume that's what's going on here. The Great Divide, edition of 22, available for 20 Tezos, 24 Tezos cents. DCNRLZ, Danny's on Fire. A little ASCII magic from Enigmatris using one of the drone photos of downtown LA. So this was a cool one too. And just what I find super interesting about what Enigmatris is doing is the experimentation that's constantly going on with each image. Here, almost covering the sky, this time with neon green, text, or at least the pound sign. And then here we have visual ASCII almost entirely covering this image. It looks quite painterly, doesn't it? So beautiful there. Marcel's Underground. So this is Marcel's Underground. Remind me the first time I'd felt that. Kind of has a bit of that stable diffusion feel, doesn't it? So nice texture here. Texture all the rage. And here, nice pixelation on the right. Just a nice, interesting piece here from Marcel's Underground, edition of 1. And that is settled for 20 Tezos. And there's RJ, Ole, and Having Fun. Cool work from Marcel. And here's our milk. So we saw the truck. Now we see what looks like a crucifix or a cross of TVs, Eigenschaft von System. And there you are. So just another interesting pixel art work using elements from the operating system, probably Windows 95 or 98 operating system as a drawing tool. I'm not sure if we looked at this one. This is Martin Bruce. And we may have looked at this, but we may not have. And so just another interesting piece here. This is on Rodeo. I couldn't remember if we'd checked it out or not. So yeah, I thought I'd share it again. Just you see here, this kind of almost looking like paper or something, but then being gift out, and just interesting hybrid feeling. It feels like an interesting hybrid between physical and digital, and just by the inimitable Martin Bruce here, like just another interesting piece. More interesting textures. Here's PP Universal. Look at this pinstripe suit. Look at the texture on the pinstripe suit here. So super interesting. And look at the texture on, I guess that's the neck. It really rewards a close view here with PP Universal's work. And you see that cool texture all across the underneath here. Let's look at the shirt too. And nice kind of gradient coming across here. I think you see here, it's like, you can see in the button here, the little squares, like I think PP often makes his own brushes, which is super cool, I think. Interesting textures in the background, cool work. Here's Edmarola, dreaming of a game made by Matisse. I don't think we looked at this either, because I would have remembered this frame that stops. So you see this kind of brown frame, and then it stops here. I mean, pretty wild. And here is this figure in the middle in the grass. Beautiful textures, really nice piece. Original composition can be found on Rodeo, interestingly. And so this is an edition of 17 for 15 Tezos each, foregone. And here's another one, Dreams of Colorful Hugs. So this was made live on X, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll show you that in a second. So here, a couple of figures. And so if you want to learn how Edmarola works, here it is. You see hanging out in my studio, just go to Edmarola's feed, now working, and then you can just hit play, and Ed will take you through his studio here. So how cool is that? Really cool. So sharing a lot. Nice documentation there too. Here's Limbo with a new work, Suspense, The Cursed Hour, Part 7. Let's get some volume here. Again, kind of the horror pixel art vibe. Shimmering. Now it goes for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And so it's a whole, drama here. So interesting structure, comic book structure, of course, Limbo working in comics. But also incorporating pixel art and dithering into recent works. A bit of a one-bit necro for those that are wondering, kind of vibe. Here's another one. I think we might have looked at this a while ago, but love the music. Cool vibe. So you see what Limbo's kind of going for here. Really nice. Secret tape, report. Super cool. Let's continue. Here's Stippen Pixel with a pixel art cat. Tap Tap Meow. And so, I was hoping this would be a shorter show, and it's turning into like, I need to probably speed up the start of this show. Anyways, let's look at Stippen Pixel. Beautiful cat. Great to see Stippen making works again. and maybe had never stopped, but I kind of lost track. But anyways, here's cool work. Let's just see if we can see that 100%, because it matters with pixel art. Otherwise, it can be kind of deformed. So you see how just another cool cat work. Love the colors, nice simplicity there. Very cool work on Object for those that are looking for more just interesting pixel artists. Here's Cap'n. New works on Rodeo. So Cap'n continuing still this interesting palette, almost this kind of retro palette, I want to say. So cool work there. Look at this one. So just kind of putting out elements. You can still mint these, I believe. And so just, Cap'n's just can make endless works here. And this one's on the Surreal app. And kind of looks like the logo, doesn't it? It is. It is the Surreal logo. So very cool. I was trying to figure out how to get to the more from the author. So I'm not quite sure, because then you get to surreal.eth. Not sure what's happening. Maybe he did that for Surreal and they posted it. Here's Chris War, Compass of Sound. So I suspect Chris War made that track. I'm not sure if it's been released anywhere. Cool vibe. Very cool vibe. Compass of Sound. Cool work. Chris War, of course, great techno, or at least, I don't know what you'd call it. Great, sometimes they call techno electro out here. Great techno musician, I'll call him that. Kit Velo, Salt. So just interesting piece here. Kind of abstract pixel art, as you can see. Semi-abstract, animated abstract. Let's continue. And here is Silva Santu's Garden of Eden. Open edition. So I guess based on a game. So interesting old theme. Could go well in a certain themed show. Like if you had a show that was kind of themed on, based on Genesis or something. Here you have Adam and Eve via video game. I wonder what video game that was. We're almost done here. Slava 3, Accepted Path. And here is a new kind of 1-bit dithered work by Slava 3. As you see, this kind of earth or sphere going in and then out, or out and in, and a cube and everything. Here is Score with a new work. Orchidaceae Flowers, Touch Designer and Adobe 3D Scan. Let's see if it plays. And is there volume? I don't think so. So nice piece here. I think this is in the fake whale market, not positive. Great to see Score putting out work. And here, just all the fun and delight and this cool cube surrounding what looks like almost something you'd see in a flower store. So flowers, and this, I believe, sold out. It was edition of 1 for 100 Tezos. Nice work, going to Ole. Starting to see that name more often here. Yoda, going on. So here, analog video art, glitch art. And so here, kind of a landscape work. Nature tends to work really well, kind of minimal colors. Canuck Zapata, picked up by John Cates for 20 Tezos. And here also, this is AI, I believe, as you can see here. Pretty wild AI work. It's easy to kind of, like when you look up close, you see how just kind of radical some of Canuck Zapata's work is. This video was made using Midjourney. And Paisajitos is a collection of generated landscapes. So interesting. And here, this is a rad work. This is raw AI. This is by Inigo Bilbao. So we've seen the Mickeys before. Here are some new ones. These ones are a little bit more, it almost looks like graphite or something. Style, it's AI, of course. But it's got like a slightly different texture from the other ones. Pretty cool. And again, you see the references of Mickey, but you never, I guess the ears especially right in the upper corner there, say Mickey. 350 Tezos. You can totally recognize Mickey. I guess it's the black and white too. Beautiful work. White Solitude, Moment. So a very painterly AI artwork. So we saw a couple, I think, last episodes. So some more super textured AI paintings by White Solitude. Here's Ile, piano number 7. So another AI artwork here. I think part of the series called Silhouettes, I think. And there, yeah, so really cool AI piano, very painterly, interesting color. and everything. That's an addition of 15. And Ole picking up 2. Aw Heck, Little Cakes, Mumble Boy, ASCII, so lots of people. DeFi Boston. Here's so this is Tukes, who maybe is calling themselves Inner Flow now. And we're back to this interesting AI brushwork here. It's quite interesting, isn't it? This AI texture. What's funny about it too is it's noticeably AI. Is it Glenn Brown who kind of seems to be drawing? Like you'll get an artist who, from what I can tell, I'm not sure if that's what they're doing, but sometimes what you'll see, I think it's Glenn Brown if I'm not mistaken. I think it was at Gagosian. Really cool artist, by the way. Where you'll take an image like this and then recreate it. So it's copy and paint, but then use paint to recreate this image. And then so you get this kind of weird glow and almost like hallucinatory glow that AI art will kind of give in the textures, this weird distortion in the textures that look almost a little unnatural. Then that'll be copied. Very cool. And then it's like fascinating because it's done in oil paint, right? Here's another Tukes work. This is really cool, kind of different. And this feels like a bit more of a kind of stable diffusion-y type texture, but who knows? Very cool. And here's No Hygiene, radical work from No Hygiene. I mean, I wonder again if this is raw AI. That would be, I don't know what kind of prompt would make work like this. Radical work from No Hygiene continues. This is quite radical too. This is Walk on Zora. I don't know if there's a joke being had here, but screenshot number 20, taken October 10th. So a series of screenshots here of what look like the internet. So not sure where Walk's going with this series, but I kind of wanted to highlight it because I thought this is pretty radical too. Call that the radical section. As we go into the physical work, art by Yago. This is pretty cool, kind of a Super Mario, edgy Super Mario, kind of almost the spray paint, or not sure. Looks like kind of more textured, or I should say airbrush, not sure. Goto Mizuho, this was interesting too. Shimokitsa, AWA Arts, oil on canvas. Not a huge work, 22 by 27 centimeters. Interesting composition. Here's Bondozo Bandito, we got a few here, and Robert Crumb reference here. For those that know Robert Crumb. Nice piece, super original. This was also pretty original. Making so much work, it's unbelievable. There is a credibility that comes with being prolific. Here, another super interesting work, Balenciaga. And again, the more you make, the more just like, it's like, I like how he doesn't think, he paints. Like, it's like Martin Bruce, like he thinks with, his eyes, so to speak, like, which is really cool. Moto Mohiro, interesting hybrid here of this legs with the, I don't even remember what it's called. It's Friday. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. And thank you for the patience. Thank you for the support. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you're super creative. And until next time, take care.